Hello everyone and welcome to another WARNO cast, and today we are here with an interesting one because if you click here, one of these two players is named Proto Soccer. Because this is supposed to be somewhat of a guide and also like a bit of a critique at the same time about the current issues in the game. First of all, why is still blue for red and red for blue in the replay player, but that was obviously a minor thing. Currently, clusters are a bit too strong. And I was playing on stream, and I decided to try to find a way to solve that. So I hopped into red 4 because red 4 is not so strong with the clusters. I decided I will not bring too many clusters, took 2 SU cards, and I will try to beat the cluster and the helo spam and all that comes with it. And tried to find a setup for both 2 ways and death row. And this is one of the setups I have for 2 ways, which is a lot of helos. You don't want to have too much on the road at the beginning. Some eagles in the back against healer rushes as always, because roads are clusterable and you don't want to have all your stuff dying to an early cluster. Together with that, I bring in an early me 23, whilst my opponent doesn't start with cluster bombers. So that's already a disappointment. I bring out my MiG. Obviously, already on paper, for me, I thought, oh shit, that's already a missed investment, because the 2 or 3 games before, enemy came in with cluster, I killed the cluster, I was already ahead. I had on the stream a 100% win rate against the cluster starts, but that's also, in my eyes, because people relied too much on it and on Apaches and so on, and not because it's totally balanced or anything. But yeah, if you want to play red 4 currently, maybe you can find some things in my playstyle that will help you out. For example, yeah, instead of bringing infantry in on transports that can be clustered, bring them in me 8s with rocket pods in form of your Spetsnaz. They have an RPG, you have rocket pods, and they also fight everything else pretty well in CQC. But yeah, as you can see, enemy already came in with some A helicopters and with some Cobras. I tried to secure the middle as always on 2 ways. That's where my Mi's 8s and my Mi 24s went, because you want to have the Mi 24s against helicopters. And when I saw this, I was already like, oh shit, yeah, okay, helo rush is coming. So I got my MiG 23 ready. And I moved over with my Mi 8 and my Mi 24s to try to hit that. I feared he would already go further, so I will bring in more Iglas to try to protect here. Getting ready to also have a CV unit over here. Meanwhile, obviously he has quite a lot of invested into this push, so on the ground he only has infantry. A lot of mech rifles to hold the north, and then a bit of follow-up infantry over here. Also some fireteam dragons in Bradleys. And yeah, here I come, spotting his helicopters. He has one AA helicopter. That should be my focus. I misclicked, I hit the tow Cobra. But at least I stressed out the OH, and then I tried to hit the OH once I saw it again. Yeah, attack order here was wrong, but somehow he missed with his OH as well, so Mi 24 gets the kill, MiG 23 gets the kill on the Apache. Good combination. MiG 23, not this one, the bit more pricey one is actually a really good helo killer, but this one is still a good helo killer. Meanwhile, enemy now comes in with an F-15 Eagle, so I try to get the hell out of here. And I'm lucky in this scenario, but I know already, okay, he has a big investment in an F-15. I have multiple cards of MiG-31s in this deck, so I will try to beat him with that. MiG-23 will get out, luckily, so that's happy for me. It was quite close there. If that rocket would have hit, I would have obviously lost it. Also, overall, it feels weird how far you have to get off the map to disappear onto your enemy. Meanwhile, yeah, Mi 24s maybe a bit too far forward. I should have moved them a bit further back, as one of them is damaged. So 2 hits of enemy AA piece could kill it. And yeah, here come my 2 MiG-31s, and they go for the Eagle in retaliation. Eagle is already hit, and here we get it. MiG-31s are really good at hunting stuff down. I waited for his F-15 to come around again, and then I went for it. Meanwhile, his Phantom Cluster Bomber tried to kill our Mi-24s. As I said, I had them a bit too far forward. If you don't actively use your helicopters, always get them a bit behind the front line, so the enemy can't snipe it with AA or with planes. My MiG-31s were out of rockets, so I had to get them back. But yeah, you really want to contest the American air, and you can contest the American air in 1v1, that is, where the enemy can't overinvest into F-15s. Like MiG-31s, you nearly get 2 for the price of 1 F-15, they can deal with it. And if you combine MiG-23s with MiG-31s, they are cheaper than 1 F-15, and together they usually can hunt them down as well. Get them into a dogfight, then call in the MiG-31 and hit them from the side or the rear with the big rockets. Overall, MiG-31s with the long-range rockets are really good for like hunting stuff, and also really microable. Like, you can shoot them and then just run away. They obviously have a long turn radius, so you have to like know when to turn them quite early on, but once you do that, you can get them out quite often as well. Having a long range always is a big advantage in Eugen games. I feel like people still have to get used to that with the MiG-31s. Meanwhile, our enemy could have pushed us a bit deeper here. He will come around at some point. Meanwhile, we hold the middle. I didn't invest too much into CVs. Now I start getting CVs, so I want to build up pressure onto my opponent. And yeah, keep my air force alive, because I already saw the first cluster bomber with that F4. And I was pretty certain at that point, after getting a helo push into me and seeing a cluster bomber already, that this guy was all about the cheese as well. About the American OP stuff. So my plan was holding on the sectors of mine, keeping Delta under control, which was completely uncontested so far by him. Getting enough Iglas out to shoot at enemy planes and helicopters, as these are still one of the best AA in the game for the Soviets currently. And other than that, yeah, keep my Mi-24s alive. Mi-24s are such important tools. The Hinds are pretty good with their AA rockets, as they are really tanky, so they can tank 1 or 2 AA shots of the enemy. And with the 4 Iglas, they usually can also kill off most enemy helicopters. So yeah, got the Saperi in the middle. Will get me up to a better tick. Yeah, the red bar already works, but somehow the other colors are mixed up though. So this, I'm pretty sure this is me. Maybe it's... No. Oh no, that's him. No, so the bar has the right color, but these are wrong. So these have the right color already, and everything else is wrong, I guess. That way around. Because we are red 4 as blue. And maybe blue 4 as red. Yeah, here we had an F-15 trying to hunt down our Mi-24s, which is not a good idea. F-15 is too fast, and its rockets are not that amazing against helicopters. And you don't want to get them that close to the ground, because that means AA actually gets in range of them. And also, if you show F-15s like that, MiG-31s can come around. Luckily for him in this engagement, if I remember correctly, we're not gonna shoot him down. F-15, yeah, all our missiles miss. But he has to be careful. We only need one lucky run, and his F-15 is down. Meanwhile, our Mi-24s regroup in the south. More Motostrelki coming in. The BRDM to you as well. Meanwhile, Igla in the north. His number 2 sets up, because I feared at this moment, because I didn't saw much of his play, right? As you can see, he has a helicopter command vehicle, so with more helicopters he could have maybe come around in the north. That's why I also have the recon helicopters here. Yeah, here I don't need it, because I'm close enough that I could see stuff flying around. But yeah, here and here I've positioned recon helicopters to see anything trying to move by, so I can react in time to get out of the Iglas. Meanwhile, pushing forward with my Motostrelkis and Saperi RPOs. If you can shoot down the helicopter play of the enemy quite early on, and as I said, MiG-23s and Mi-24s allow for that, you can do quite well. Like, you have a bit of puffer, and then you can just try to wait for the enemy to come around. Now he has a Phantom with clusters and the F-15. The Phantom with clusters gets quite heavily hit there. Will get shut down in a second. But the F-15 obviously is the more dangerous target, so the MiG-31s try to get that. Again, don't hit though. Cluster goes down. F-15 still around. It can be quite frustrating. But you just have to keep your micro correct. And use your MiG-31's range against it. And don't get into dogfights. Because MiG-31 doesn't have a cannon. It's not there for dogfights. So yeah, if he comes in, you come in. Get in with your MiG-23 first if he brings in planes. We got another helicopter killed, but I already knew about the Stinger. I hoped it would miss, but obviously it didn't. It's a 3-star Stinger actually. So it's high veterancy, so it actually has a really good chance to hit. So that was a bit stupid by me, but at least I got the helicopter. Shouldn't have done that though. The helicopter was not worth as much as my MiG-23, especially as I need the air control. He didn't need that AA helicopter too much. Meanwhile, Saperi RPOs coming around to the north, because now the plan was to get to more than a +3. Currently, tick rate is a bit too slow in 1v1, so waiting for my +3 to win the game wasn't on my menu. I wanted to win faster, because I feared the other OP cluster unit, the cluster MLRS, which we so far haven't seen in this game. Because in other games before, once the enemy went away from cluster, they came around. Yeah, here my one card of SU-24 clusters, which actually will not do that much this game, but at least at the beginning it got a snipe onto these couple of jeeps, one still filled with some recon units. So yeah, I hold the middle. That's main goal. I could have had a better positioning by now in the middle. That is still room for improvement. Meanwhile in the north, I tried to contest the town, but it's quite hard without good recon. I brought the Spetsnaz around, but I still wasn't able to see the enemy. And my Mi-8 at least gets out alive. But now the enemy also starts using clusters relatively soon. And that will be... like, he already used his F4 clusters, but also soon F111 clusters coming around. And that will be when the pain starts, and when you have to be really good on your reactions. Always have your planes in control groups in this game. Like, always have 2 or 4 Mi-31s in one control group, and then your MiG-23s in another control group. So you can react in time as soon as you see the enemy. You don't have to click down here, because that's often too long. Because these boys are fast. And yeah, this one will be deadly. I unload a bit too slowly, and there you go. I gave the unload command, but it was a second too late, and I lose 3 Saperi RPO to the cluster bomber. Cluster bomber comes in, this one being an F4, and the issue with the cluster bombers currently is not just the damage, it's also that their reload time is a bit too low. So from now on, I know, oh yeah, every 40 seconds if I don't stop it, I will get clustered. So my full-on focus now is getting the air micro correct. And luckily, for me, I practiced air micro a lot in Steel Division, and it somewhat carries over. Obviously, you have to get used to shooting missiles instead of just shooting your guns. They have a bit of air units behave a bit differently in the air. But here we go. He kept his F4 1 second too long on the battlefield, and MiG-31s and even the Eagles get it there. Now an F-15 Eagle comes around, and I already called these one back. I actually wanted to call this one back. That was a mistake by me. So I couldn't help out this Su-24 cluster, so I sadly lose it. But hey, less cluster is better for gameplay, so could as well tell you it was intentional. I wanted to get rid of this evil thing. But yeah, no, that was sadly a misplay by me. T-64 over here gets clustered, because next cluster comes in. Clever by him. And yeah, quite frustrating for me, because he still has the F-15 around. My planes just went for reload. Luckily though, interceptors don't take too much time to reload and refuel. The only time they take quite a bit of quite long is when they get damaged. So you really want to watch out for MiG-31s and so on not flying into enemy AAA, because even if they don't die, once they get damaged, they are out of service for quite a while. Mi-24s over here, still flying around, at least the one that's still alive. Lost one to a Stinger, if I remember correctly. And now I start getting OSAs as well, because I want to have as much shooting at the enemy as possible, and they can get shots off against the F-111s. Not so much against the F-15s, other than maybe if you have a dogfight above them, but especially also against the F-4 Phantoms, they work really well. As you can see, one OSA down here, got a hit, and the air cavalry does the rest. And here we go, F-4 down. Meanwhile, next cluster comes around. So I try to hold the ground. And I miss everything, and it gets out. MiG-23 is not fast enough to follow. MiG-31 is still on reload. Really, really frustrating. Getting all my units on the right position and not hitting. But that's what you have to live with in WARNO. Like, missiles have hit chances. If they don't hit, they don't hit. They will hit eventually. At some point, you will get those boys. Even an F-15 will get hit at one point and will go down. And yeah, now I tried to sneak in. This forest over here is really good, usually, because it's out of infantry range. So you often can sneak a CV in here. Yeah, now he tries to cluster me. I at least unload these, if I remember correctly. Oh no, I don't unload these. They get force unload by the cluster. But at least they survive, so I will be able to sneak them in. So I will get up to a +5. But as you can see, I've been up to a +3 for a hell of a long time, and currently the tick rate is just a bit too slow. I hope they will reduce the points to 1,500. It was a bit too fast on the 1 second ticker. It's quite a bit too slow by now. So maybe the halfway mark between is the right way of doing it. Meanwhile, he tries to push down here in the south now. My Mi-24 I kept behind the front line now. Yeah, he's trying to move up with Stinger, but it takes a bit too long. His infantry already got demolished by the Mi-24 and the BT-R-60. And now my Motostrelki using their RPGs to killing off the Bradleys. I bring in the supply truck to rearm them. And here we go. RPG with the 30 penetration. Really deadly weapon. Meanwhile in the north, Motostrelki BMPs and Motostrelki's Metis coming in into the center, because I saw these units. Luckily these two forward deployed infantry units did stop them for a while, forced him to unload. Already dealt some damage, if I remember correctly. Maybe not. I know they will deal the damage now. Yeah, that's a side penetration to an Abrams, getting the Abrams. So I knew I needed to get in there. And yeah, here we go. F-15 Eagle. As I said, at one time you will hit, and you only need that one time to get that F-15 down to kill off 390 points. But you have to be really careful with your MiG-31s. And you need to take a lot of fighters in the Soviet deck. But you have a bit better slot availability in this deck, so you can also take the fighters. And will have fighter advantage if the enemy goes for the cluster bombers, because that's obviously less fighters that he has. So you should be able to shut it down. And actually after this game I switched out the SU-24 clusters for even more MiG-31s, because I realized my clusters didn't even do that much for me. And I already win on the ground when I control the air. So I rather focus on fully controlling the air and put in the second part of MiG-31s instead of having these clusters. Because with 4 MiG-31s you almost always get a kill, even on the F-15 when you call them out at once. Meanwhile, yeah, we are now controlling the north as well. We are at the +5. Tick speed is quite a bit higher now. Helps out quite a bit. BMP with Motostrelkis moving into the north. But obviously we are quite a bit further forward now as well, so Apaches and cluster bombers can be more annoying. But with his second F-15 going down, and those being the only fighters he has, every cluster run for him now is even more scary. because he does not have nothing to protect it. And we only lost one MiG, 33, so we have 5 fighters still around for hunting his air units and getting full-on air superiority. Osa now moving forward, trying to hit the Apache, and here you can see my mistake in the AA tab. I only have Osas and Tunguskas, and Osas are absolutely horrible against helicopters. They are pretty decent against planes, but 2100 meter range allows them to get into the range of the enemy's Hydras as well, and Hydras stun them so quickly. So yeah, if the enemy would have fired his his Hellfires at us, the Osa would have died. Luckily he missed that one. Maybe he lost line of sight, I'm not quite sure what happened there, why the Hellfire didn't fire. So our Osa survives to see another day, but in a normal 1v1 we would have lost the Osa there. And yeah, Toe Cobras will now try to finish off the Osa. Osa gets a shot in, but yeah, here you see, again, gets stunned, because the Hellfires, not the Hellfires, the Hydra rockets are really good at stunning AA, so your AA needs to have more range than that. Your AA needs to have more range than that, at least. Like, would be even better if you also would have enough range against other stuff. Here's another cluster run that escapes our MiG-31s. Always frustrating, especially as it also did some damage, but we will get it next time. But yeah, MiG-31s can't do anything against helicopters, so we have to win the ground against the helicopters another way. And here the BMP-2 comes around. BMP-2 is surprisingly good against helicopters, especially against Cobras, but also it's surprisingly okay against Apaches, because it has a 30 mil. And 30 mils have 2 penetration, which is a game changer against other weapons that only have 1 penetration, for example. It deals so much more damage against helicopters, against unarmored ones, and also against armored ones. And yeah, as you can see, our cluster bombers didn't do much, so that's why I took them out in the afterwards, focusing fully on killing off enemy cluster cheese and enemy helicopters with my air tab in future games. Motor Strelky's here. Yeah, I could have pushed further in the center. I made a, I could have used this way more, but I wanted to be sure that he is under control, that I keep the center, that I don't lose anything, and focus fully on the air. Because at this point I wasn't super secure in my airplay yet. By now I'm a bit more confident. I focus more on the ground again. This game you can still see like too much of my focus was still in the air. But I only now bring in another leader, for example, to try to capture this ground. I could have done that a bit earlier. Could have gotten quite a bit more tick. It's there already. Yeah, more Osas coming in, more Iglas coming in. Everything against the helicopters, even though there by now ain't that many helicopters left. He still has a Kiowa though. He still has an Apache, so we have to be careful. But yeah, Bradley's over here. Now under fire by the Me-8TV, by some BMP-2s. Second Me-8TV come in, and against lightly armored targets, they do okay damage. Getting the Bradleys there. And they are really scary against infantry. Here I wanted to use my Mi-24. Cluster was annoying. Took away one of our rockets. We got the Kiowa, but we couldn't finish off the Apache because that one Igla went for the cluster plane. And the 30 mil of the Apache deals more damage than the 50 cal of the Hind, so we got killed off there. Was a bit frustrating as well, but we have another aircraft to finish the job. Our helicopters can't do, our airplanes can. And there goes another Cobra. Oh no, another Apache actually. And now there was no helicopters with fighting capabilities left on for him on the map. F-111s had to come in without support. MiG-31s finally do the job. And he loses all his advantages. Still get off that cluster. Kills off one transport. But I'm fully happy trading that. And now he's basically done for, because as you can see, no tanks whatsoever. Brings in a couple of tanks in now. So I guess he had saved up for that. But we have air superiority. Our MiG-23s can even come in for strafing. They are pretty okay in that as well. In that role. I'm not quite sure if we will see that in this game. If I remember correctly, it was the game after where I used them for strafing some infantry. But yeah, another cluster run. So we even have the clusters still that could kill with deal with tanks. So I guess maybe it's not too bad to have them, but I just don't want to use them currently because they're too strong. And yeah, we also have Mi-8 TVs and so on that can pin enemy tanks. And really, tanks on their own are not a big problem in the current game. Tanks are really good, but only if they come together with other combined arms. Tanks on their own are really, really vulnerable, even to normal infantry, because everything comes with some AT-GM or other AT weaponry. Okay, aero rifles now trying to sneak onto the middle. We have two Eagles ready. We have our MiGs ready. And we are getting closer and closer, taking them down. Another frustrating bug with helicopters with the aero rifles. Also with the Spetsnaz, all transport helicopters, if they get killed off, currently drop their infantry completely full life. Which obviously shouldn't be the way, but yeah, with infantry, with BMP-2s and with Eagles firing onto these helicopters, they will not survive for too long. And neither will the infantry of them, as they are completely caught out in the open. Not the best drop you could do. BMP-2s and so on, completely annihilating these air rifles. You can see all 30 men nearly down by now. On their way out now. Another cluster run. I'm pretty sure that's the last of his 4 cluster bombers. And it somehow manages to dodge all my MiG-31 shots again. But by now, I'm really close to victory. He has all the pressure on him. And he now has to do a Hail Mary push with his tanks down here. Don't have too much there to stop it, but I could obviously reinforce before these get anywhere. He uses F4 while the Weasel. This card should have obviously been used for other units. Wild Weasel, not that effective currently. Eagle down here. Might be able to get the kill. Not quite doing that. Wild Weasel will try to run back home. And should be out of range for the OSAS. Overall, AA feels like it needs a bit more range. Not much more range, like I saw people voting for like 5,000 meters and stuff. I feel like giving them another 500 would already make them work quite okay. Because currently they often already aim, but don't have the time to shoot. And if that would be more often the case, then like units couldn't fly directly over them, but that would be much better. But as we see, I got a good game, and I hope you learned something, both about how to beat with cluster and also about the current state of the game. And yeah, maybe I could convince you of trying out a bit of Red 4 again and not just abusing clusters yourself, because they are beatable. It's annoying, but if you put in the micro and if you like come up with some creative starting, you can beat it. Obviously, still hoping that it will get nerfed though, because always preparing for this is a gambit, and when then people start completely normal, it would obviously fall off. So balance shouldn't stay the way, but it is playable. So yeah, see you all next time. If you haven't subscribed yet, would love it, subscribe. And yeah, till then, goodbye.